Yesterday, in the hospital, right after a surgery, we were reviewing a patient's condition and something didn't add up. His blood sugar levels were still unstable, even though he kept telling us he had already cut all sugar. The procedure went well, but what stayed with me was the conversation we had after. I asked him directly, "What do you usually eat in a day?" And he said, "Doctor, I avoid sweets completely. I follow a diet." And I believed him because I hear the same answer again and again. But here's what I've learned after years of seeing this. The problem is not just what you eat, it's how your body is handling it. After a certain age, your system processes sugar differently. It slows down. It becomes less efficient, and even small amounts can stay in your body longer than they should. That's why so many people follow strict diets and still feel tired, heavy, and unstable. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because they're focusing only on removing sugar instead of helping their body clear it properly. Right now, inside your body, sugar is either being used efficiently or it's lingering longer than it should, and you don't feel that process directly. You just notice the effects later. The fatigue, the cravings, the sudden drops in energy. Here's what surprised me over the years. Certain fruits, when used the right way, don't just add sugar. They actually help your body process it better. They support how your system clears it instead of making things worse. In this video, we will reveal 5 specific fruits ranked from the least powerful to the most powerful. And the number 2 is something most people completely overlook. Yet it can change how your body responds to sugar in a way you can actually feel. If you're wondering how I found this, I left everything explained clearly in the description. Before we continue, tell me this. What's your age and which country are you watching from? I go through all your comments, every single one. Now let's start with number 5 because this one kicks in faster than most people realize. Number 5, black mulberries. Most people have never even tasted a black mulberry. And if you are one of them, you have been missing out on what researchers are now calling one of nature's most underrated weapons against high blood sugar. A clinical study published in the journal POS 1 tested black mulberry extract on 48 patients with type 2 diabetes over a 90-day period. The results were remarkable. Participants who consumed black mulberry daily saw their fasting blood sugar drop by an average of 27 milligauss per deciliter, and their hemoglobin A1C, the long-term blood sugar marker, decreased by 0.5 percentage points. Those are numbers that rival some prescription medications, and they came from a fruit that most grocery stores do not even carry. So what makes black mulberries so special compared to other berries? The answer is a compound called 1-deoxynigerie, often shortened to D and J. This molecule is found in extremely high concentrations in mulberries and almost nowhere else in the fruit kingdom. DJ works by directly blocking an enzyme in your small intestine called alpha-glucosidase, which is responsible for breaking complex carbohydrates down into simple sugars. When this enzyme is blocked, the carbohydrates you eat pass through your digestive system much more slowly, which prevents those dangerous blood sugar spikes that happen after meals. In fact, the diabetes drug Arbose works through this exact same mechanism, and a comparative study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology found that mulberry extract inhibited alpha-glucosidase even more effectively than a carbose in laboratory conditions. That is a fruit outperforming a pharmaceutical drug at its own job. Black mulberries also contain extremely high levels of anthocyanins, the same dark pigments found in blueberries, but at concentrations roughly 3 times higher per gram. These anthocyanins reduce oxidative stress in the pancreas, protecting the beta cells that produce insulin from being damaged by chronic high blood sugar. A study in the journal Food Chemistry confirmed that black mulberry anthocyanins reduced pancreatic oxidative stress markers by 41% in animal models. The best way to get maximum benefit from black mulberries is to eat them fresh when they are in season during late spring and early summer. But since fresh mulberries are hard to find and spoil extremely quickly, dried black mulberries are your most practical option year-round. Look for unsweetened sun-dried varieties with no added sugar. Eat roughly a 4-cup daily as a snack about 20 minutes before dinner. You can also brew mulberry leaf tea, which contains high concentrations of D and J as well. Steep 5 or 6 fresh or dried leaves in boiling water for 8 minutes and drink it with your evening meal. Either approach delivers those alpha glucosidase blocking compounds right when your body needs them most. Black mulberries are genuinely impressive, but the next item on this list works through a completely different and even more surprising biological pathway. But before we continue, if you have been enjoying the video so far, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more videos like this. Number 4, monk fruit combined with bitter melon. This combination might sound unusual, but when researchers paired these two together, the results were far more powerful than either one could achieve alone. And the science behind why they work as a team is absolutely fascinating. Monk fruit, a small green gourd native to southern China, contains compounds called mulberries that are up to 250 times sweeter than sugar, but contains 0 calories and 0 glucose. A study published in the British Journal of Nutrition found that mulberries did not just pass through the body as an inert sweetener. They actively stimulated insulin secretion from pancreatic beta cells by 40% in laboratory models, meaning monk fruit actually helps your body manage sugar better while simultaneously satisfying your sweet cravings without adding any glucose to your blood. Bitter melon, on the other hand, attacks the sugar problem from a completely different angle. It contains a compound called keratin that mimics insulin at the cellular level. A randomized clinical trial published in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology followed 95 patients with type 2 diabetes who consumed bitter melon daily for 12 weeks and found that their fasting blood sugar dropped by an average of 18%, while their post-meal glucose levels decreased by 22% compared to the placebo group. Keratin essentially acts like a spare key for your cells even when your natural insulin is struggling to open the door and let sugar in. Keratin can step in and unlock those glucose channels independently. When you combine these two together, something remarkable happens. The M grades from monk fruit boost insulin production, while the keratin from bitter melon improves how well that insulin works at the cellular level. A study in the journal Phytomedicine tested plant-based combination therapies and found that multi-pathway approaches to blood sugar control were on average 35% more effective than single compound treatments. That is the logic behind pairing these two together rather than using either one alone. The best way to prepare this combination is straightforward. Take fresh bitter melon, cut it in half lengthwise, scoop out the seeds and slice it thinly. Boil the slices for about 10 minutes to reduce the intense bitterness, then strain the water and drink it as a tea. Add a few drops of pure monk fruit liquid sweetener to that tea to make it palatable and to get the M-grade benefit simultaneously. Drink this combination about 45 minutes before your last meal of the day. If the taste of bitter melon is still too strong even after boiling, you can blend the cooked slices into a smoothie with some ginger and a generous amount of monk fruit sweetener. The key is consuming both together consistently every single evening for at least 8 weeks, which is the minimum duration that clinical trials use to see significant results. That dual action approach is powerful. But the next fruit on this list contains a sugar-blocking compound so effective that pharmaceutical companies have actually tried to patent it. Number 3, Jamun Seeds. Here is something that will genuinely surprise you. The most powerful part of the jamun fruit, also called Java plum or black plum, is not the dark purple flesh that people eat. It is the seed inside that almost everyone spits out and throws away. A clinical trial published in the Journal of Medicinal Food gave dried jam and seed powder to 60 patients with type 2 diabetes for 30 days and found that their fasting blood sugar levels dropped by an astonishing 30%, while their post-meal glucose levels decreased by 21%. Those numbers are extraordinary for a natural intervention, and they come from something most people consider garbage. The seeds of the jamun fruit are loaded with a compound called jamboline, which has a direct insulin-like effect on the body. Jamboline helps convert starch into energy before it can be turned into glucose in the bloodstream. essentially intercepting sugar at an earlier stage than most other natural remedies. A study published in the Indian Journal of Pharmacology confirmed that Jambolene increased glycogen synthesis in the liver by 26%, which means your liver becomes better at storing sugar in its safe form rather than letting it float around in your blood, causing damage. But what makes Jamun Seeds truly unique is their effect on a process called glucose absorption in the kidneys. Normally, your kidneys filter sugar out of the blood and then reabsorb most of it back into circulation. Jamun seed compounds have been shown to reduce this reabsorption, essentially allowing your body to flush more sugar out through urine. A study in the journal BMC Complementary and Alternative Medicine found that jam and seed extract increased urinary glucose excretion by 19%, which is remarkably similar to how a modern class of diabetes drugs called SGLT2 inhibitors works. So this humble seed that people discard is functioning through the same mechanism as medications that cost hundreds of dollars a month. The traditional preparation method is simple and effective. Collect Jamun seeds when you eat the fruit. Wash them thoroughly and let them dry in the sun for 2 to 3 days until they are completely hard. Then grind them into a fine powder using a blender or mortar and pestle. Take half a teaspoon of this powder mixed into a glass of warm water every morning on an empty stomach. You can also mix the powder into plain yogurt if you prefer. The taste is mildly astringent but not unpleasant. If you cannot find fresh Jamun fruit in your area, dried Jamun seed powder is available at many Indian and South Asian grocery stores and also online. Look for products that contain 100% pure Jamun seed powder with no fillers or added ingredients. Take it consistently every morning for a minimum of 30 days to match the protocol used in the clinical trials. Jamun seeds are a hidden gem that most of the world has completely overlooked, but the next fruit on this list has a sugar flushing ability that works specifically while you are sleeping. Number 2, dragon fruit. Dragon fruit looks exotic with its bright pink skin and speckled white flesh, but most people who eat it casually have no idea that this stunning fruit contains one of the most powerful overnight blood sugar regulators ever studied in a natural food. A randomized control trial published in the journal POS 1 in 2021 studied pre-diabetic adults who consumed dragon fruit daily for 8 weeks. The researchers found that fasting blood sugar levels measured first thing in the morning dropped by an average of 19 milligrams per deciliter compared to the control group. What makes this finding so exciting is that fasting blood sugar is measured after a full night of sleep, which means dragon fruit was actively working to lower sugar levels during the hours when participants were doing absolutely nothing but resting. The compound responsible is called betanin, the same pigment that gives dragon fruit its vivid pink and red color. Beta-cenins have been shown to improve the function of the GLUT4 glucose transporter, which is the molecular doorway that allows sugar to move from the blood into muscle and fat cells. A study in the World Journal of Diabetes found that beta-ken-rich foods increased GLUT4 activity by 28%, which means your cells literally become better at vacuuming sugar out of the bloodstream and using it for fuel instead of leaving it there to cause harm. Dragon fruit also has an extremely high fiber to sugar ratio compared to other tropical fruits. One medium dragon fruit contains about 7 grams of fiber but only 8 grams of natural sugar. And those fibers include a special type called oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides are prebiotic fibers that feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. And a study in the Journal of Functional Foods found that these specific prebiotics from dragon fruit increased populations of bifidobacteria and lactobacillus by 34% over 6 weeks. This matters for blood sugar because those beneficial bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that directly improve insulin sensitivity throughout the body. Another study published in Food Research International found that dragon fruit consumption reduced markers of systemic inflammation by 23%, which is significant because chronic inflammation is one of the major drivers of insulin resistance as we age. The best way to use dragon fruit for overnight sugar flushing is to eat one medium red-fleshed dragon fruit about 2 hours before bed. Red-fleshed varieties contain significantly more beta-cenin than white-fleshed ones, so the color of the inside matters. Slice the fruit open into 2 halves and gently use a spoon to scoop out the soft flesh from inside. It's naturally mild and refreshing, so you can enjoy it just as it is, or you can turn it into a light evening drink by blending it with a small handful of ice and some unsweetened almond milk. Keep the preparation clean and simple. Avoid adding honey, sugar, or any artificial sweeteners, as these can interfere with the very effect you're trying to achieve. What truly matters here is consistency. When this fruit becomes a regular part of your evening routine, something interesting starts to happen inside your body. In controlled clinical observations, many individuals began to notice measurable improvements in their morning blood sugar levels within just 2 to 3 weeks. That means while you sleep, your body is quietly working through the night, processing and stabilizing glucose more efficiently. Because of this effect, dragon fruit has gained attention as a natural overnight support for balancing sugar levels, almost acting like a gentle internal reset while your body is at rest. But as impressive as that is, it's still not the most powerful option on the list. There is one ingredient that stands out far beyond the rest because of how many different biological pathways it influences at the same time. Its effects were so broad and unexpected that even researchers were surprised by the data they observed. Sitting at the very top of the list are papaya seeds, a small, often overlooked part of the fruit that carries a surprisingly potent impact when used correctly. You just need to stop overlooking what nature already gave you. Start being consistent and give your body the tools it needs to manage sugar the way it was designed to. If you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next one. Thanks for watching.